Thank you, Corrine, for inviting me back. And thanks to my CEA team for helping prepare the information I'm about to share with you. This has been a busy and quite positive data week so far, and it's not over. We learned today that real GDP rose 2.8% last quarter, largely accounted for by strong consumer spending. The quarterly PCE price index, this is the inflation measure watched most closely by the Federal Reserve, grew at an annualized rate of 1.5% last quarter. Consumer spending continues to come in strong, backed by the tailwind of a persistently tight labor market and easing inflation. Real after-tax income was up a solid 1.6% in Q3. That's more buying power and more breathing room for American households. In other words, this is another in a series of GDP reports showing the U.S. economy is growing above trend and, as the slide on my left, your left, my right, shows, is outpacing other advanced economies. This is the U.S. and you see well ahead of the pack. We also learned yesterday that consumer confidence spiked in October, up about 10% for the month, its largest monthly jump in 3.5 years. Relatedly, the gas price this morning was $3.14 per gallon and is below $3 per gallon in 20 states. These data are consistent with the most important dynamics of the macroeconomy during our administration: strong GDP growth, strong job growth, accompanied by falling inflation. In fact, as CEA has shown, real GDP is up just under 13%, as Corrine said, since the president took office. And there you see that in the last bar there, since the president took office, and has consistently beat forecasters' expectation. Case in point, if we compare real GDP, where the level of real GDP is today, with the Congressional Budget Office's last pre-pandemic forecast, today's level is $9,800 higher per capita than it was expected to be. Real wages and incomes have also consistently been on the upswing, with real incomes up almost $4,000 during this administration, boosting workers' buying power. Now, on Friday, we'll get the October jobs report, which will reflect the labor market impact of several strikes, Hurricane Helene and possibly Hurricane Milton. The BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics strike tracker, estimates that there are 3 strikes that will be reflected in Friday's report, reducing national payroll employment by about 41,000 jobs, a number well above the usual monthly strike count. Note that the East Coast port strike ended before it could have an impact or an effect on the October payrolls. Regarding the hurricanes, outside analysts estimate that the extreme weather could lower payroll employment by as many as 60,000 jobs, though unlike the strike estimate, this estimate is subject to considerable uncertainty. In other words, outside estimates suggest that strikes and weather-related events could collectively lower October payrolls could collectively lower the change in the October payroll by as much as 100,000 jobs. Now, while we're doing all we can to help with these temporary disruptions, we remain confident in the underlying strength of the U.S. labor market. At the same time, it's important to keep in mind that these disruptions will make interpreting this month's jobs report harder than usual. Despite the recent positive data flow, let me be crystal clear that there are no victory laps here. We know that prices are still too high for families, making our cost-cutting agenda as urgent as ever, and we will continue to fight to lower costs in key areas, including healthcare, prescription drugs, childcare, housing, and more. But what these data do show is a strong economic foundation that we must continue building upon. We must especially maintain this progress against efforts by congressional Republicans to drive inflation up with a large national sales tax in the form of tariffs, and we will fight their efforts to repeal the very cost-cutting measures I just referenced. With that, I'll take your questions.